They say you can see a train wreck coming, just not the one with your name on the front. Mine hit at exactly 12:03 p.m. on a Monday in a glass-walled boardroom overlooking a skyline I helped pay for. 38 floors up, 3 months after I secured the biggest government contract in our company's history, I got replaced by a marketing major who thinks cybersecurity runs on vibes. Name's Marcus Rains, 47. I was the chief systems architect for Velmira Technologies until that Monday. 14 years building the core infrastructure, database protocols, client encryption keys, internal sandbox tools, and the load balancing model that kept our systems humming through 5 product pivots. My title didn't carry much flash, but my fingerprints were on every single bite of the $860 million valuation they bragged about in investor meetings. Not that any of that mattered when Greg Whitmore brought his daughter into the room. I knew something was off the moment I walked in that morning. People avoided eye contact. My parking badge still worked, but the front desk clerk gave me that slow, uncertain smile you only use on someone who's about to be eulogized. I had just come back from D.C., where I'd closed a long-delayed government procurement deal, one that required 3 months of compliance review and 18 separate documentation threads. I hadn't slept more than 5 hours a night in weeks. But I wasn't tired when Greg called me in. The boardroom was colder than usual, literally. They must have cranked the AC. Greg stood with his arms crossed, staring at the carpet like it held the right words. Next to him was Brielle, 23, fresh off a startup boot camp, and 3,000 Instagram followers deep into a rebrand. She wore a blazer 2 sizes too big and held an iPad like a sword. "Marcus?" Greg said, forcing a smile. "Thanks for coming in." "Wasn't really a request, was it?" He exhaled hard through his nose. "Look, this isn't easy, but we've been evaluating leadership structure with our upcoming pivot to a more public-facing model." "Cut the grease," I said. "Just say it." "You're being transitioned out," Brielle jumped in, like she couldn't wait another second. "We're restructuring to match Gen Z expectations. Agile, more inclusive. You've done amazing legacy work, but we need fresh direction." Legacy work, that's what they call it when you build the house and they want to redecorate. I didn't say a word. I looked at Greg. He couldn't meet my eyes. This man used to bring me ribs on late nights when we had server crashes. I'd rewritten his back end from scratch after the company's first CTO walked out. He knew exactly what I was capable of. I turned to Brielle. She was practically glowing, like she'd won something. I smiled. "Well," I said, "I'm certain you'll rise to the occasion." She blinked. Maybe she caught something in my tone, maybe not. "Of course, we'll offer severance and transitional support," Greg added, fumbling with papers. "I won't need it." I walked out without another word. The silence in the hallway was thick. No one spoke. They didn't have to. The moment someone powerful becomes disposable, everyone else feels the tremor. I stopped by my office, boxed up what little I cared about, a photo of my brother, a leather notebook, 2 encrypted flash drives, and a pair of noise-canceling headphones. Then I made one final stop, the server room. Cold air hissed out of the vents, and the glow of machines hummed like a living organism. This room was my cathedral. Everything Velmira depended on pulsed through racks of hardware that I personally assembled, calibrated, and secured. It wasn't arrogance. It was fact. I didn't need documentation to navigate this space. Every system was an extension of my own logic, redundant, fluid, quietly invincible. At the back of the mainframe tower, I pulled up a remote terminal on a secured device I kept stashed behind a ventilation panel. It asked for a biometric check. I gave it my thumbprint. Then the failsafe dashboard opened. A single line of code, my own creation. No one else knew it existed. I typed in the protocol manually. The cursor blinked. A warning flashed. "This action is irreversible. Proceed." 5 seconds. That's how long it would take. Every server node would chain react. The entire Velmira database, contracts, client logs, R&D archives, internal dashboards, even backup mirrors, would atomize. It would be as if the company had never existed. My finger hovered over the enter key. One push and they'd crash harder than they ever thought possible. But I didn't press it. Not yet. I closed the device, slid it back behind the panel, took one last look at the room. Revenge isn't about impulse, it's about timing. And right now, I wanted them to feel safe. Let them believe their fresh energy would carry them through. Let them brag. Let them fail on their own. Then, maybe, I'd give them a reason to remember the man they called legacy. I didn't rage. I didn't drink. I didn't even call a single friend to vent. I just went home, unlocked my front door, and set the box from Velmira on the hallway table. The sun had started to set, casting long shadows across the hardwood floors. It felt appropriate, the death of something, not me, them. By midnight, I had my home rig online. 3 custom towers, liquid-cooled, ghost-routed through 5 countries. The remote tap I installed in Velmira's infrastructure years ago had never been triggered. It wasn't for sabotage, at least, not originally. It was my insurance policy, a mirrored admin port hidden behind a false system file, nested beneath an old legacy application no one ever bothered to update. Why would they? Greg thought I was the update. I accessed the mirror. The signal came through clean. Their dashboards, storage vaults, email servers, live product telemetry. It was all still running on my architecture. I smiled. Sloppy. No patching, no audit trail, no idea. Then I saw her name in the superuser logs. Brielle. She'd elevated her own privileges. Tried to make herself look like a systems admin. I pulled up the command tree. She had no idea what half the strings meant. She was typing keywords like she was playing a hacking minigame on a mobile app. I watched her create a duplicate folder for critical server configs and misspell redundancy. Twice. Her social feed was even worse, posing in front of the server room door like it was a runway backdrop. So honored to lead the new phase of Velmira's tech journey, captioned with a lightning bolt and a brain emoji. Someone in the comments called her CEO Barbie. She liked it. I didn't feel insulted. I felt fascinated. This wasn't imposter syndrome. This was imposter celebration. She wasn't trying to become me. She was building a parade on top of my bones. But parades are soft targets. All noise, no shield. They were prepping a live investor demo. I found the calendar entry buried in a shared Slack channel. Greg had brought in a PR firm, scheduled a live stream platform walkthrough, real-time dashboards, active encryption test, and new client onboarding. All of it depended on my database engine, the same one still pinging me from 31 different internal addresses. I clicked open the failsafe dashboard, still intact. The command sequence was untouched. I reloaded the script to confirm. Once I input the final line, it would prompt a 5-second delay. That was the window. The system would ping all network nodes, and if it didn't receive a halt code within those 5 seconds, it would cascade, purge all active directories, overwrite backups with blank bit streams, and flood the error logs with randomly generated garbage data to delay manual triage. Irreversible. Clean. I updated the countdown protocol, tested a dry run on a dummy clone, and then closed the shell. No errors. I leaned back in my chair. Rain had started tapping against the window. Somewhere, far off, a dog barked and was answered by another. I remembered the early years, nights in Greg's garage before it became an office, sleepless weeks where we lived off caffeine, ramen, and the thrill of solving problems no one else even knew how to name. Greg wasn't always a suit. Once, he was hungry. I fed that hunger with code. I kept us alive when the funding dried up. I mortgaged my car to keep the servers running. I remembered the first investor meeting. Greg froze when asked about system security. I jumped in. I explained how we designed the backbone to be modular, encrypted on write, and resilient across multi-region failover. They nodded. They wrote checks. We became a company that day, not because of vision, but because of architecture. Now he sits quietly in meetings while his daughter mispronounces kernel on a live stream. No one remembers the builder. They remember the brand. That's okay. Let them. I wasn't out for revenge. I wasn't out to destroy Greg or humiliate Brielle. What I wanted was simpler. I wanted them to feel exactly how I did sitting in that boardroom. Cold air, dead silence, no explanation. Just realization. So I waited, watched, logged everything. I set an alarm on my phone for the demo date, made coffee, ran diagnostics on my home rig, cleaned the glass on my main monitor. Everything was ready. All I had to do was wait for her to look into the camera, smile at her curated audience, and claim something that didn't belong to her. And when she did, 5 seconds. Just 5. I wouldn't even blink. The launch stream started at exactly 10 a.m. Pacific. I'd been watching the countdown on Velmira's website since sunrise, sipping coffee in the dark. I didn't bother turning on the lights in my office. The only glow came from 3 monitors and the soft pulse of the external cooling fans humming beside me. I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt clinical, like a surgeon preparing for a quiet incision. The company was valued at $860 million as of that morning. Brielle had managed to charm 2 influencer-backed funds and an EdTech accelerator into sponsoring the public reveal. They'd branded it the Next Phase Initiative. New colors, a custom logo, a painfully dramatic video of her walking through the office while voiceover lines talked about innovation and agility. I watched the live chat scroll on the launch page, investors, clients, and curious techies all waiting for the big reveal. One name flashed past that I recognized, a defense contractor who once told me our encryption engine was as tight as NSA paper. He had no idea I was sitting on the other side of the glass. Then the screen shifted. There she was. Brielle stood center stage in a modern showroom setup. Backlit panels, soft blue ambient lights, branded signage behind her. She was dressed in a fitted blazer and sneakers, the kind of fashion blend that says, I don't just run the company, I vibe with it. Good morning and welcome to the future of Velmira, she said, smiling wide. We're so excited to show you what we've been building behind the scenes. Behind the scenes? As if she'd ever seen the inside of a codebase that wasn't filtered through a Canva slideshow. We believe in transparency, real-time responsiveness, and empowering users across industries. And today, you'll see that commitment in action. She turned and gestured toward a wall of monitors displaying live metrics, client dashboards, encryption status, server response time, usage heat maps. My dashboards, my tools. I opened the failsafe interface on my private machine. The code string sat there waiting for final confirmation. I'd rehearsed this. I'd tested every line. Now it was time. Brielle smiled toward the camera again. Let's begin. I typed the final sequence. The system paused. Prompt, execute irreversible sequence. System-wide wipe will initiate in 5 seconds. I tapped enter. 5 seconds. 4. On screen, the dashboards twitched. 3. An error flashed briefly on the encryption feed, just a flicker. 2. I leaned back in my chair, watching her eyes. 1. The screens behind her went black. The crowd didn't react immediately. People thought it was part of the presentation. But then the lights on the wall displays began flashing red. A soft alarm tone buzzed through the stream's mic. Brielle's smile faltered. She looked off camera. I think we're having a minor sync issue. The live stream chat exploded. Server disconnected? Was that a data drop? Just lost access? What's happening? Someone check the API feeds. System boot error? Behind Brielle, someone rushed onto stage and whispered in her ear. Her eyes widened. She stepped back from the podium and spoke into her mic again, voice shaky now. We're just taking a moment to refresh our display. Just a moment, folks. It was over. Data vaults, gone. Obfuscated and overwritten by null sequences, internal backups, spoofed and then flooded with decoy data, corrupted beyond recovery. External APIs, severed, auth tokens revoked, client syncs force timed out, remote access disabled. Across the world, tens of thousands of users were logged out mid-task. Emergency dashboards went dark, billing systems crashed. Partner firms began pinging support, only to discover the support channels were offline. The stream froze on Brielle's stunned face, then cut to black. The chat didn't stop. Is this a hack? I just lost 4 years of project data. Who's running this thing? Is this a joke? I closed the stream window, pulled up the main access logs. The network was in freefall. Load balancers had collapsed under a flood of recursive failsafe calls. No one in the building would be able to stop it, not even me, not now. That was the point. I shut my laptop slowly and rested my palms on the desk. That's okay, I said under my breath. She rose. I sat there a while longer, letting the silence return. No alerts, no flashing screens, no code to write or fix, just a room full of shadows, and the dull throb of a machine that had done its job perfectly. Outside, the day went on. Birds chirped. A lawnmower buzzed faintly in the distance. Somewhere in a sleek boardroom, a woman who thought she could wear a title like a dress was realizing that power doesn't come from presentation decks or curated hashtags. It comes from understanding the engine, and today, the engine went silent. The fallout came faster than I expected. By noon, Velmira's website redirected to a maintenance splash page. By 2 p.m., investor sites were reporting a catastrophic back-end failure and linking to half-sourced rumors about ransomware or internal sabotage. By evening, 3 of the company's biggest clients had already issued public termination notices. They weren't waiting to see if anything could be salvaged. They knew the signs. This wasn't downtime, it was death. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't scroll through social feeds. The only screen I kept open was my inbox. At 4:12 p.m., the first email came in. Greg. Subject, URGENT. PLEASERES. No greeting, no signature. Just 3 lines. Marcus, something's happened. We think it's the system you built. If this was you, please, just talk to me. I didn't respond. 15 minutes later, another email. Longer this time. Apologies wrapped in excuses. Brielle didn't mean to push you out. We were just trying to modernize. Things got complicated. I see now we handled it wrong. Just tell us how to fix this. As if it were a patch. An hour after that, I got the voicemail. Greg's voice hoarse and cracking, like someone had pulled his confidence out by the roots. Marcus, look, we're dying here. I know it was you. I know it. I don't blame you. Not really. I'd probably do the same in your shoes. But please, just help me. I'll bring you back. You'll have full control. Name your price. Just tell me how to recover it. He paused. You could hear it in his breathing. The sound of a man who just realized the safety net was an illusion. Please. I played it twice. Then I deleted it. There was nothing to recover. The database was never cloned. The system was air-gapped from the start, designed so no one but me could alter or mirror it without physical access and biometric clearance. The backups they thought existed were decoys, dummy mirrors fed by non-functional pipelines, overwritten hourly by randomized data. I gave them the illusion of safety because I knew one day someone would forget where all this started. I didn't leave them with a broken system. I left them with exactly what they wanted: control. Unplugged from the man who built the engine, they were free to drive it off a cliff. And they did, with flair. Across town, their glass tower must have been in shambles, phones ringing off the hook, legal teams scrambling to soften the language in the breach disclosures. I imagine Brielle in her office, staring at a screen that once displayed her carefully curated dashboards. Now, just a frozen error loop, her reflection warped in the monitor's black sheen. I didn't gloat. I didn't even smile. Instead, I sat by the window, sipping black coffee that had long gone cold. My office was silent, save for the occasional hum of the cooling fans spinning down to idle. I hadn't powered down the system yet. It felt like turning off a life support machine, not for the company, but for the version of me that once cared about it. What we built together died long before the servers did. It died the moment Greg chose style over substance. The moment he looked at his daughter and saw a brand instead of a novice. The moment he stopped looking at me at all. I used to believe loyalty bought you something: tenure, trust, a seat at the table you helped craft. But what it really buys is blindness. You stop seeing the edge coming, and by the time you do, someone's already nudging you toward it with a handshake and a fake smile. Greg didn't fire me for incompetence. He fired me for age, for predictability, for not being viral. He thought he was buying relevance with his daughter's title. He didn't realize the code powering his empire wasn't just lines on a server. It was understanding, design, discipline, and the man who built it. They thought I was a relic, outdated, replaceable. Turns out, what was truly outdated was their assumption that loyalty was weakness. That night, I turned off the monitors one by one. No dramatics, just clean shutdowns. I poured out the cold coffee, rinsed the mug, and placed it upside down to dry. My phone vibrated again. Another voicemail from Greg. I didn't play it. Some things don't deserve closure. Some bridges burn cleaner when left alone. Velmira's name would still be in the news for a while. The lawsuits would pile up. The funding would dry out. Brielle would disappear from social media and resurface in 6 months with a podcast about resilience. Greg would quietly try to pivot the company into something salvageable, maybe under a new name. But the heart of it, the infrastructure, the trust, the legacy, they were already ash. And I was done building palaces for people who couldn't read blueprints. The office is modest, 2 rooms, 1 hallway, no logo on the door. The kind of place you walk past without remembering. That's the point. No glass walls, no ping-pong tables, no interns live streaming coffee runs. Just clean equipment, secure lines, and people who speak in commands, not catchphrases. It's been 7 months since Velmira collapsed. Since then, I've kept busy, quietly. I consult now, contracted to a 3-letter agency that doesn't need to be named. They don't care about buzzwords or how many followers I have. They care about results, containment, prevention, recovery. I give them that. They pay well. They ask little. They know better than to pry into my past. Sometimes when a breach hits the news, I'm already inside the system before the headline finishes printing. Sometimes I'm asked to audit a defense contractor's infrastructure under the table. And sometimes I'm simply handed a black box and told, "Tell us what went wrong." They listen when I speak. No shareholders in the room. No executives with marketing degrees explaining how vulnerability is a brand strength. Just men and women who know that a single bad line of code can open a vault or burn down an empire. Like I said, my kind of people. The work is disciplined, minimal. My desk holds only what it needs: a laptop, a biometric scanner, and a thick mug of black coffee that I never let go cold anymore. Outside my window, there's nothing remarkable. A row of dull gray buildings and a crosswalk that blinks too fast. Some might call it bleak. I call it honest. Every so often, Velmira's name resurfaces. A podcast episode titled, "When Corporate Arrogance Meets Code." A blog post dissecting the 5-minute meltdown. They never get the details right. Some say it was ransomware. Others insist it was a disgruntled contractor from Belarus. No one ever suspects the man who smiled and walked out with a cardboard box. I don't correct them, I don't claim credit, but I never deny it either. Greg's last email sits unread in an encrypted archive. I'll delete it eventually, or maybe I won't. It doesn't matter. Last I heard, Velmira's remaining assets were sold off to a holding firm in Singapore. Brielle resurfaced with a rebrand, Digital Wellness Strategist. She sells online courses now. She talks about burnout and CEO self-care. That part makes me laugh quietly when no one's around, but not often. I'm not bitter, just clear. There's a freedom in anonymity, the kind I didn't know I needed. When you stop needing to be seen, you start seeing everything else better. I see the architecture in silence now, the beauty in simplicity. Code that doesn't have to perform for applause, systems that don't need to dazzle, just function, protect, endure. That's what I build now. Today I wrapped a vulnerability report for a satellite intelligence provider. They never knew their lateral permissions model was leaking, but I did. I fixed it in under 2 hours. No thank you required. As I shut down the system and begin logging out, a junior engineer passes my desk. Young guy. Eager, good brain, fast hands. Too much caffeine. I've been mentoring him on side projects, protocol integrity, exploit mitigation, elegant failure design. He hesitates in the doorway, holding a report in his hand, then glances at me. "So," he says, trying to sound casual, "I read this thread online about a company called Velmira. Massive crash. Some say it was an inside job. Others think it was just bad design. Total collapse in under 5 minutes. Pretty wild." I say nothing. He shifts a little. "I mean, it kind of sounds like your kind of thing. Precision failure. Like, whoever did it knew everything and executed it perfectly." I don't look up, just finish my notes. But he lingers. "So," he finally says, lowering his voice, "did you do it?" I close the laptop, turn in my chair. He's holding his breath, waiting for some grand reveal. Maybe expecting a smirk or a confession. Maybe just hoping for a good story. I give him neither. Instead, I say, "No." He looks surprised, but I let it sit a beat longer. Then I add, "It took more than that." He tilts his head. "It took years of loyalty," I say. Then 5 seconds of clarity. He stares at me, like he's trying to unpack it. I don't help him, just nod once, slowly, and turn back to my machine. He walks off, thoughtful, maybe even a little haunted. That's fine. I stand and walk to the window. Nothing poetic out there, just traffic, concrete, a bus stop. But it's mine, unfiltered, unbranded, unstolen. I'm not the ghost in the system anymore. I'm the architect. And I've learned this much. Sometimes the strongest legacy isn't what you build, but what you choose to leave behind.